All right, we are live. What's up, SE Nation? Happy to have you. It's been a tough week for me, which is why I missed Tuesday. But hopefully from now on it will be better. So I guess we can start off with some housekeeping. I want to do this every Tuesday and every Thursday for the foreseeable future. But I do have a family of three kids and a wife and myself. Things happen. So I will do my best to show up for you, but sometimes things take precedence, and I hope you understand. And next time, I'll make sure to let people know that I will not be going live on a day or so if I can. Right? And if I can't, I hope you understand that I want to go live. I just, for some reason, could not that week or that day, and I try not to miss more than one at a time. I, it's good to have you, Scott, and it's good to have you here when I'm here. Otherwise, it'll be awkward. So, thank you for being here. uh, Last few times we've been talking, we talked about like the back end processes, which I defined as the processes that customers do not see. Now, today we're going to talk about some of the front end processes, which is the customer facing processes. But a lot of these processes will change depending on the back end. Quick example, let's go here. We have the discovery. That's usually a customer facing process. However, for sales engineers, it will depend on when the SE is involved in a deal. A lot of companies bring in the SEs at the demo, right? So at which point they're going to have to do a quick disco demo. Disco means discovery and demo. So in one session, they're doing both actions. So a lot of these things will change depending on if it's a pooled model, if it's a if the SE comes in for a demo only or a discovery. Uh, what is it after the demo? What's done? Is there a POC? So we're going to talk about some of this, and I can pretty much write a book about each and every one of like the discovery, the demo, the proof of value. We can talk about that for days. So let's try to summarize as much as we can. So I'm going to just copy this again, and I'm going to paste it right hither, which, and we're going to reference some of these things that we talked about earlier. But for now, we're gonna focus on the discovery. Let's highlight that in red, because for SEs, these are the customer facing, not only customer facing, but in some cases we could be leading. I mean, SEs are leading the technical discovery, but not just the technical aspect. Uh, so let's talk about those. First things first, assuming the deal is qualified, right? We talked about the qualification, right? SEs should not be involved in a deal unless it's qualified. And if it's not, we should push back on the account team and say, like, you know what? Maybe you should do some basic discovery or basic qualification before we jump into the call. All right, so let's talk about this. One, discovery. Change. I'm going to change the color to black. And again, whoever's on here, feel free to jump in. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to add in your notes. Oh, well, color, come on. Okay. So what are we trying to do with the discovery? We're trying to discover the business problem or the technology that is causing the problem. It could be a lack thereof of technology, or they could be using somebody else that didn't solve the problem. Whatever it is, we're trying to understand. Sometimes SEs, there's a lot of overlap between what SEs want to know and what salespeople want to know. So I'm talking about discovery in general, and we may dig in deeper about who's allowed to ask about what. Although, in my opinion, that's something to discuss with your account manager more than it is to discuss with me. Understand what the client needs and how we can help them. Well, we're trying to understand what the customer needs. We don't know if we can help them yet, right? and we and we definitely can't show how we can help them at this point. But all right, so here's another thought. People tend to think of discovery as a meeting. We're going to do a discovery. So here's some questions to ask. I guess I'll jump in. How many meetings in a discovery? And this is not a question I'm asking right now. It's a rhetorical question, because in some companies, a discovery call is literally one call. Sometimes it's half a call with a demo attached to it. Well, it's not just you. Like everybody thinks that. Like, hey, we're gonna go. Even the customers think that. People are gonna come in. They're gonna ask me a bunch of questions, and they're gonna tell me how to solve it. But the same way, if you go to a doctor, I mean, let's take a doctor for example, because that seems familiar. If you go to a doctor and you tell them I have pain in my ligaments or I have pain somewhere, they're not going to tell you what's wrong with you right then and there. What they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, let's do some tests. How about you do an X-ray, an MRI, do a blood test? Right? All these things are part of discovery. They're investigations. Right? And this is what we do. Like, how do sales engineers investigate? Some companies would request, like, hey, can you give me access to your X database so I can take a look and provide a offer solution? Or, hey, can I take a look at your network topology if you're in networking? Or can I take a look at your firewall configuration? These things we can ask. I mean, they may say no. And something to learn about meeting customers is every meeting you're earning the right to know a little bit more information and to set up the next meeting. Think of it as dating. You don't go ask a woman you've never met to marry you. Well, you could. She will probably say yes. Or if you're asking a man to marry you, which most it's usually the other way around. Well, I can't answer for that. But generally speaking, you need to court someone. You need to build that relationship, especially when you're talking about enterprise level deals. And enterprise level deals are basically mm, depending. It depends on the size of the deal. So, are you? I guess we should let's define some things first here if we're going to be talking about that. SMB, small to medium businesses. That will change the process. If you're selling into a small to medium business, that will change the SE process. A small to medium business could be like a mom and pop shop. Like imagine HubSpot selling to like my wife. She was selling. I think I mentioned that earlier. She used to have flashcards that teach French, English, and Arabic, um, and it allows people who don't know Arabic to teach that to their children. She's a company of one. HubSpot was courting her, trying to sell her. And that's the most transactional deal you can get. And still, they had 3 or 4 calls from like doing discovery to doing the demo to trying to close the deal. Um, they didn't close the deal, but that's not on them. But that's a small to medium business. I mean, that's a very small to medium business. If it was my company, I wouldn't want anyone wasting time on a company of one. Then we have like mid range. I don't think I've heard that being used, but Generally speaking, I haven't heard of anything like I've heard small to medium business and then I've heard enterprise. So let's say something in between uh, small to in between SMB and enterprise. And let's talk about enterprise. No, enterprise. So enterprise, and then you can have major. We're just basically we're getting bigger and bigger with the size of the companies and the size of the deal. Like if someone's selling into AT&T, that's a major company. Generally speaking, if an SE is selling into AT&T, he may not be selling into any other company than AT&T. At which point the discovery process changes. But let's assume it's somewhere like we're going with a new company. We're trying to find a new customer, trying to close on a new customer. But where did I get here? Okay, so how do sales do their investigation? Um, oh yeah, so that depends on the relationship. With enterprise, you can build great relationships over time, and you can start asking for information that you wouldn't have been given otherwise. Small to medium business, it's very quick, and you need to build rapport quick, so you can actually do in the investigation. And if you say like, "Hey, if I want to investigate, I need this information," and the customer isn't willing to provide you that information, then you might not be able to go forward. And that's something to discuss in the discovery process. So, how many meetings in the discovery? How does the sales engineer investigate? Who do we want to talk to? As in, I can tell you a story. I have on my team in my previous life, we had engineer. They are called the field service engineer, which is more of a post sales technical account manager role. So their job is when the customer asks a question after they've bought, the technical account manager, the field service engineer, they're the ones to help. So what happened with that is the technical service engineer uh, decided that this software that the customer doesn't have is useful for them, and it's a fair assessment. It could be that the software is useful. So he went and started talking to the engineers, to the users, and they were all excited about it, and they wanted licensing to try it out, and they wanted to spend months playing with it. And he kept coming to me and asking me like, "Hey Ramsey, like, let's do this," and I would say no. I would say no because we don't have time to do it. Like we're not even talking to the right people. So after a while, I was able to get the not the hiring the manager of that team on a call, and we did the discovery. We showed that it will hold tremendous value to them if they were to buy this software. But in the end, the manager said, "This looks great. I will never get approval to buy it. I am so low down the totem pole, and everybody else is in San Jose. So I can't even talk to them. Like as an SE, I couldn't talk to the decision makers. So who do we want to talk to in a discovery call? Are we talking to users? Are we talking to the C-suite? Are we talking to the VPs of marketing? Who are the people that are going to not only buy but also champion us?" Um, so these are things that we kind of have to decide before we jump in. Like, how many meetings are we going to do to fully discover the product, the problem? Uh, what is the information that the SE need beyond how many users? Right, these are like too technical, too much in the weeds. It's more we're talking big story, big vision, problem. What is it that we need to investigate? Who is it that we need to talk to? I mean, we could like who's the decision maker basically. and who can provide info. Sometimes the if we're let's say we're talking about some SIEM, which is a security tool. The decision maker is usually the CISO, the security officer, but the people that can provide the information are the users. Or let's say Salesforce, for example. Salesforce is easy. People should know what it is. It's a CRM, customer relationship manager. The people who decide they want to buy Salesforce or move to HubSpot or any of that are the sales team, the sales leaders. The people who can provide the info, so let's say we want to migrate them, would be the IT team. So decision makers don't have to be C suite. A user, it depends on the complexity of the product, how expensive it is. Sometimes, like a team lead or a manager, may have the capability to make that decision. Or they may have the capability to say, like, yes, I want to buy, but they don't, they have to go ask for a budget. They have to budget for the next year. So it doesn't, like, that's the thing. Each company will have to find its own decision maker. If you're talking to Salesforce, they're going to have to go to the chief revenue officer. That's the end all be all decision maker, or even the CEO. If you're in my world, I can talk to a manager. They can make the decision, and if they have the money, they can buy. And that's what we're talking about, building the process. Like, these are the things that we need to know to be able to sell or to be able to help solve a problem. Without this information, we cannot move forward. Right? And then the process is like, who's going to be involved in the actual discovery? Is the SE involved? Yes or no? If they are involved, what is their role in that involvement? Right? So, here, I like to do this. Eh, involved. Where is it? I see not involved. Come on. So if the SE is involved, how is the SE and the salesperson going to work together? I've witnessed so many discovery calls or meetings with customers where a salesperson would sit in and just talk to for like 40 minutes, and they were late 10 minutes because they were late on the previous call or whatever. Now, and then they turn to the SE and ask them, hey, do you have any questions? And there's 5 minutes left to have the discussion. And this is like more about the practice of being involved in the discovery rather than the process, but how to integrate SEs and AEs together. So I think I mentioned last time, a discovery call or any meeting with a customer should be more of a conversation, not an interrogation. And if a salesperson is talking for half hour straight, and then they turn to the SE and it's like, "Hey, do you have any questions?" And now it's the SE's turn. It's not a conversation; it's a checklist, right? At which point, just send the questions ahead of time to the customer and have them answer it. Have a reverse RFP, if you will, or RFI, request for information. So how do you get the SEs and the AEs to work together to ask the questions that are needed to get them both the answers? Because again, whatever they answer here, like sometimes we need the salesperson to advocate for the SE to get the information so they can investigate or to get access. How do you work together? That is the big process. And if an SE is not involved, how will the information transfer? from AE to SE. AE is account executive, just in case it's not obvious by now, and SE is sales engineer or solutions engineer, solutions consultant, SE. So, and if the SE is involved, who owns the call? Like, like how after which call? So because we could have a qualification call, which also acted as a discovery call with the account manager, or the account manager could have had multiple meetings with the customer just to get them to agree to meet with the SE. So at which point is the SE involved, and again, how do you transfer that information? Right? And how does the SE go about confirming that information again from the customer? And I can hear my daughter crying upstairs, so we'll go up in a minute. Ooh. All right. So there's a lot. Like I again, we can talk about discovery calls for hours. Actually, Peter Cohen wrote a book about discovery, which I have not read yet. So because I want to formulate my own thoughts, not that I'm not advocating to read the book. You should read the book, but I want to share my own thoughts without stealing from anybody. So I haven't read that book yet. But if you can, read the book. And then, but let me move this. And we can let's talk about discovery today, and then maybe next time we'll move on to something else. What is it we're trying to discover? I mean, obviously, business like pain points. Everybody's trying to discover pain points. That's the obvious one. Right? Why did you even meet with me? That's the my favorite question to ask customers. Like, hey, you're a busy person. I'm a busy person. What made you say yes to meeting with us today? And generally speaking, they share a lot about the points that that they want to like solve. Yeah. We're looking at the culture, as in who wants to do what. Like culture, as in like between them. Do they have a culture of buying? Right? Do they have a culture of working together? Do they have a culture of sharing information? For example, I have global customers. Um, I don't support them globally, but I support my local team here. But there's a local team in other places in the world. Do they share information? Right? Because if they share information, demo in India can affect me negatively in the U.S. and Canada. Um, so what is that? What does that culture look like? Right? Um, well, I'm trying to discover who the champions are. Decision makers. We already said that. Competitors. Are they talking to competitors? Are they coming from a competitor? I've had situations where I'm demoing like the day after my competitor is demoing, or the day before, or we're starting a proof of concept. So we need to understand: are we competing against someone? Because if you ever went to buy a car and it's a hot car market, the thing that salespeople are going to tell you is like, yeah, we can't hold it for you right now because we have like five other people looking to buy it this instant. Right? Whereas if it's a slow market, hey, what can we do to get you in the car right now? Yeah, we can hold it for you, but like what their whole attitude changes. Um, how like one by the way, one of the bigger competitors that most people have is in-house tools. That's something that most people face. I'm also trying to find. personal pain points. So here, let's just do business pain points. I'm also trying to find out about their personal stuff. As in, if someone is where? What am I doing? Someone's working at a company and they they keep getting called in the middle of the week because one of their products keeps crapping out, or in the middle of the night because one of their products keeps crapping out. Um, so what are you gonna do then? That's a personal pain point. If your product can help them not have to come in the middle of the night, you change someone from someone who doesn't care to a champion. Uh, we're also trying to find competitors champions. And then can you connect manager's pain? So let's say there's an individual who works in IT and they keep getting called on weekends. They have crappy workload because of a certain product or certain solution, and they don't want to do this anymore. Their pain point is that they're working all this other time. They're being away from their family. The manager's pain point is like, hey, this is the fourth person we've hired for this role who left. So that's causing him pain or her pain due to that situation, which is either costing them more money to hire someone else or paying overtime to other people. So all these things we're trying to collect as we go. How do we solve someone's pain? How can we turn them from someone who's in pain to a hero? Because if this person can solve the manager's problem and the manager can solve their director's problem and so on, now they're heroes to their managers. What else are we trying to discover here during these calls? Timeline. I mean, when you do a qualification call, there's a couple of different methodologies. They call BANT or MEDIC or MEDPIC. BANT starts for budget, authority, timeline, and need. And MEDIC, let me look it up. MEDIC stands for metric. So metrics, economical buyer. This decision criteria. Let me make it smaller. Decision criteria, decision process. So the two Ds: identify pain and champion. So MEDDIC, medic, and then there's MEDPIC. What does this stand for? Just copying off some website. I don't know what paper process is, but metric, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, paper process, implicate, and pain. I don't know. Champion and competition. So double C right there. Implicate the pain or identify pain. So when we're doing the qualification call, when the salesperson, the SDR, is doing the qualification call, they're finding that information out in theory. Although Damien Tomasino believes that MEDPIC is dead. or Bant is dead, so don't use it. But there's a time for it. But the thing is, timelines can change. What they tell you during the qualification might not be the same thing they tell you during the discovery. The decision criteria, the decision maker can change as well, right? Uh, and also something to think about, like how long is the sales cycle? Are we, because I've been in sales cycles where it's been like 3 months, 4 months we've been working on a deal, and then all of a sudden the person I'm working with, my champion, leaves the company, and now we have to go start from scratch. So all this information, like you have, every time we do the discovery call, we're going to have to do the qualification, the authority, the need, um, and sometimes in the discovery call we have the decision makers, but we're not talking to them. We need to discover how to get to them. You're talking to a manager, but they're not the person who's going to put in the purchase order. How are you going to go about trying to find, hey, you know what, I'm going to, I if you bypass that and try to find the actual decision maker, you may just lose the deal right then and there because you turned a champion into someone who hates you. So how can you get the champion to introduce you to the decision makers? So all these things, and it will change from one company to the next. Right? You can have a checklist. Your first discovery call could be a checklist that you've put together as an SE, or your manager or your company's put together and shared it with the account managers or the SDRs to actually ask those questions before you even get invited. Especially if you're, so this whole thing changes if you're pooled model versus one to one versus one to many, local, global, uh, virtual. Everything can affect the way you do business and the way you do a discovery call. Right? Maybe part of the discovery process is how to build relationships with the customers. Should you take them out to lunch? Right? What is the process? And I can't tell. Like, I have my own processes to build relationships with my own customers. It's not given to me by my management. My management just says take customers out to lunch. For me, I have my own processes of what I need to do. That's worked for me within my organization with my customers. If you're in a startup and you were starting an SE team, you're going to need to figure that out. If you're an individual becoming an SE for the first time, you need to figure out what is it that you need to do to actually achieve it. So I'm going to stop here for today. Next time we'll talk about the demo. I mean, any suggestions? If you have any suggestions about things to talk about, things you want to know, please send them to me. Comment here, comment on YouTube after, like on the actual video, and I'll take a look and we'll work on something together. But that's pretty much it. Oh, something I wanted to talk about. Maybe I'll talk about that next time, is agenda building. How about that? Cool. So I'll leave a note here. Next, unless someone comes up and asks me for some information about something else, agenda building. Okay, so that's it for today. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming on. And thank you for watching this video after, if you're watching it after. That's it for me. Get back to work, or good night, I guess. Yeah, let's stick with good night.